your host for this evening. As we begin this evening, I want to acknowledge that we are holding this program on Indigenous land. These are the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Duwamish people. We honor their elders, past and present, and thank them for the stewardship of this land. And it looks like many of you have figured out how to use WebEx. It's very similar to Zoom. So we're in the webinar format. So there's no video on it, and we have you muted at the moment until the Q&A session. Definitely put in your questions in the chat. We have a lot of time for Q&A. You can also change the layout of your screen by going to the button at the top that says layout, so you can see the slides. At this point, you won't be able to see Jennifer, though. We were trying to get captioning to work. We had that problem as well. We have somebody who's doing live captioning. And if on the lower left of your screen, you see a CC button, if the captioning is working, that's where you will see it. So our program is the second program tonight in a series that we're having called Aging in Place. And, you know, most adults, when asked, say that they want to age in place or age in community. And I know Jennifer will talk a little bit more about that. But so our series has been looking at different housing options which promote aging in place well. And next week we have another session on universal design with Barry Long, who is a local realtor and accessibility expert and advocate. So please sign up for that as well, and we'll try to get our tech stuff straightened out. I'm going to post a link for that program, and I also just invite you to come visit the older adults pages on the Seattle Public Library website. We call it Next Chapter. I will put a link into the chat, and you'll find there our programs, resource lists, blog posts, and reading lists, book lists as well. And I have created a book list on aging in place to support this series. And so to get started, I'd like to turn the program over now to Jennifer Hammer. She is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Silver Nest. I love the way she describes herself as passionate about finding ways to help people stay in their homes and also exploring options for affordable housing. And in her position at Silver Nest, she focuses on collaborating and partnering with nonprofit and government entities. She also has in her past previous work, she has helped people who have been overwhelmed by downsizing and moving out of their homes. And here's just another fact about Jennifer. After her kids left for college, she began sharing her home with a housemate. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here with us, at least on the phone. And I think you're the perfect person to tell us about home sharing. And I'm especially appreciative because you're on the East Coast and I know that it is late. So on to you. And I have to figure out my slides now. Okay, just tell me when you're ready to go and I will move the slides.
I sure will. Nancy, thank you so much. And I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I do not know why I cannot get in to see everybody on camera, but probably just as well, because yes, at 9:30, I'm maybe not at my very, very best looking, but I am excited to be here, and I've been excited all day about this opportunity to share a little bit about home sharing, kind of what we're doing at our company to bring it to scale to cities and just really create awareness and just share a few examples of what we're doing around the country. And hopefully, since I can't see the chat, you know, Nancy, just stop me anytime there's a question or we can hold them to the end, but whatever works easiest. I know this is a weird way to do this, but we'll just get through this together. We'll share this adventure.
We will indeed.
So if you can go to that first slide that has Suzanne on it, that would be great.
I will get us there. All right. Meet
All right.
Suzanne.
So this is Suzanne. She's and just we only use pictures of people who actually are home sharing on our presentations and stuff, because what we're asking people, what we're asking them to consider is very real. So we like to be very, very real with everything we do. So this is Suzanne. She's great. She's funny. She's 67. She owns her own home. She's self-employed. She's living by herself because she got a divorce. She's really independent, but like a lot of people, she has not saved enough for retirement, and that house that she owns costs a lot of money. So she's experiencing some financial pressure. And on the next slide, there's just a lot of people who are like Suzanne, male, female, all different ages. There's a lot of people who, for one reason or another, are just experiencing a lot of financial pressure for a lot of different reasons. So what we see in this next slide that says a simple solution, what we see as a solution to some of these financial issues that people are having, the fact that, people really do want to age in place. 80% of Americans surveyed, according to an AARP survey, want to stay in their homes as they age. There's a lot of affordable housing issues out there. It's, becoming harder and harder even to downsize. You mentioned that I did do downsizing before, and it's expensive to move. Sometimes it's more expensive to move than it is to stay in your own home, even when your home is getting expensive. And finally, there's just a lot of social challenges out there that I think COVID has really shined a light on, especially as far as social isolation and loneliness. So something that could be a solution to, one or more of these issues is something a lot of us did maybe when we were 20, 30, but it's not really on top of our radar as we are 40, 50, 60, 70, but it's having a roommate. I know you guys can't see me, but just to kind of, Nancy mentioned that I do home share. I'm 51 and both of my children went off to college, and I have a roommate who's upstairs right now. So, and it's one of the, wasn't on the top of my radar at first either, and it has turned out to be one of the best things I've ever done. So on this next slide, we'll talk about maybe some of the things that are gaps in traditional ways of finding a roommate. One is and it's the most important thing when you're looking for a roommate. You have to have somebody that is compatible. If you are not compatible with your roommate, it really doesn't matter what you do later. It's probably not going to work out. So the number one most important thing to do is to find somebody that's compatible with you. And compatible doesn't mean they're perfect in every way. I would venture to say most people, if you look at yourself in the mirror, we're not perfect in every way. But you do want somebody that is going to kind of share a lot of, just values with you and ways of living in the same house with you to make it much easier transition. Next, of course, I would say in any relationship, communication is really, really important. Get out in front of problems before there are problems. Talk about things like, hey, so my dryer makes a really weird noise when it's finished drying, and I can't stand listening to it when I'm in bed. So if we could just not do laundry after 10:30, that would be great. And that discussion at the beginning is so much easier to have versus laying in bed and getting angry because you're hearing the dryer buzzer go off at 11 o'clock. So little things like that, if you can just cut those off, head them off in the beginning, it's going to make everything much better. And to continue to communicate throughout your relationship. If you don't talk about little things, or you don't just kind of let someone know, hey, I'm feeling this way right now, could we just have a discussion? It's always good to communicate is basically the message here. And finally, protection. When we're moving in with someone, you're probably going to share some items that are the homeowner's items, and you're probably going to be bringing some items into this situation as well. So you want to have protection not only for the agreement, but for the items that you're sharing together and bringing into the house. So at its core, and this is the next slide, and this is, if everyone can see this slide, this is Denise and Marnie, their housemates in Denver. And this was actually a Teach for America pilot. Denise is a teacher who came in to teach in Denver. So the homeowner is basically, and I say homeowner, but really you don't have to own your home to do this. You can be renting a space As long as your lease agreement or rental agreement says you can have a roommate, you can home share. But it's kind of up to you to make sure you understand what your, maybe covenants in the neighborhood are, your HOA rules, if it's an age-restricted community, things like that. Just make sure that, you can have a roommate and that the parameters around having a roommate, are that you understand those. So anyway, so a homeowner with extra space can list their space. A housemate moves in and pays rent. A lot of people choose to do help around the house in exchange for reduced rent. And then a lot of times it's a really great financial arrangement, and people go into this arrangement because of a financial motive. But at the end of the day, a lot of times just equally as lovely as the extra money or the extra savings is the friendships that come out of these arrangements. So this next slide is just to kind of get you thinking about, who home sharing helps. It helps a lot of people in a lot of different ways. Obviously, older adults and empty nesters. There's undergrad and graduate students who are always looking for housing because, they might not have a car and it's really, or they might not be on a bus route. They just might not be able to afford dorms. A lot of teachers, volunteers, frontline workers, folks just starting out, people coming out of an internship and going to an expensive place to live, they're really great candidates who need affordable and flexible housing, as are people who are displaced by natural disasters. We've helped some folks in during the Oregon wildfires find housing because they were displaced for a few months. And this really does translate into some really significant impact. Communities, when you have people coming in and they're living with each other and they're meeting each other's neighbors and they're maybe helping you out around the house, you just create this really connected community, and the opportunities to create new circles of friends just open up. The other thing that's kind of impactful is the fact that if you want to do this, you have a place that you can go versus, just kind of throwing your hat in the ring with Craigslist or maybe asking friends or posting something on Facebook or in a coffee shop. And then we provide a lot of opportunities for intergenerational home sharing. There's a lot of people who are really excited about the idea of getting to know someone from a different generation. There's a lot to be learned both ways. So it's really, we've had a great time hearing the stories out of some of the intergenerational relationships. But really, if you just kind of, widen the lens and think a little bit about, how could this work for me? It's really pretty fun to see all of the possibilities that are out there. So a little bit, just a couple of quick notes, what we see from our platform, and this is Silvernest. So we do know that people are very worried about their security. So we've made sure it's a very secure website, ID verification, background screens, encrypted messaging so you don't give away your identity. We do a lot of things to help folks, find and filter out the people that they want, because again, home sharing is really based around compatibility. So we really try and make sure we send people compatible matches. We are available in all 50 states. Happy to, share my contact information if anyone has any questions, but, you can go check out the website today. It's free to list a space for rent or free to sign up and say, hey, I need a place to live and I'm looking for a place. And finally, we just really try and stay with everybody. Make sure they really, as you embark on this journey that might seem a little unfamiliar at first, kind of, help people really understand what home sharing is, find the right people, provide a lot of content and tips to make this a really successful journey for you. So what we see, and the next slide that says Silvernest users, what we see from a national perspective on our website, I think mirrors what a lot of home sharing programs around the country are seeing. And most of our homeowners and housemates tend to be female, although we have plenty of, males on the website as well, but they tend to be female, a little bit older on the homeowner side at 65 and a little bit younger on the housemate side at 53. The average savings is $750 a month if you're a housemate, and that's based on a one-bedroom market rate rental. And then the average homeowner around the country makes $850 a month, so about $10,000 a year. And again, those are just, averages around the country. It's going to vary by market. It's going to vary by what you have to offer, all kinds of things. We do see, and I've, again, talked with a lot of home sharing programs around the country, happy to share a really good study, actually, that was done in the University of Washington about home sharing around the country. But they've found that there's often kind of homeowners might want $1,000 for that room, but a compatible housemate that it's a great fit and everything seems so perfect, except they can only they can only afford $800 a month. A lot of people are willing to consider reducing the rent for help around the house, and that's non-licensed, non-personal care. So nothing that would, be medical or anything like that. It's more what I would describe as chores. So raking the leaves, walking the dog, things like that. And finally, just kind of back to, we do see a lot of intergenerational opportunity on our website. I always joke a little bit that my children are 22 and 23, and they all have friends, and they all come home for the holidays. So I have enough intergenerational relationships in my life right now. My roommate is 59 and I'm 51, and we both have adult children. And, so that was, my choice was to live with someone more my own age. But again, this is all about choice and empowerment and how you want to live and how you want your life to look. So, just as we go a little bit further, I just have a couple more slides and then I'll open it up for questions and feedback. But this really is all about what you want to do, who you want to live with. It's an option. It might not be a great fit for everybody, but it could just be a great fit for you for 6 months. So just kind of keep that in mind. Finally, just a couple quick examples of how we're partnering around the country.
Excuse me, Jennifer, I might not be on the right slide. Where Silver Nest comes in is the slide that I'm on.
So if you go down to that Silver Nest users with the 2 women on it.
Let me see.
So it's the next one. Mm-hmm.
It's the next one. Got it. All right, we're on the right slides now.
That was the next one. I think I kind of talked around that a little bit, but just kind of a snapshot of what our users look nationwide. So sorry I didn't say to advance that slide, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory if you look at it. But yes, again, anyone, any age, any adult, any gender can get on our website and be, sign up as a homeowner or housemate is the basic, takeaway from that slide. So the next one on our partnerships, I'm just going to do a couple quick examples. So how we partner is normally there's some type of funding. We're funded under all kinds of different methods. I can give you a few examples next. We often partner with a nonprofit who manages the day-to-day of the home sharing operations. So sometimes it's an existing nonprofit with a home sharing program already, and we help them scale and they can use our inventory. Sometimes it's a nonprofit that wants to add home sharing services. So it just really, we just do whatever is best for the nonprofit. And then we're just the vendor that kind of helps with the home sharing program. So an example of that on the next slide that says Home Share Oregon. So just to the south of you, Oregon has a home sharing program statewide, and they have a large nonprofit, and they decided they wanted to do home sharing as well. So we are the technology that powers their home sharing program. Home sharing is really interesting in Oregon too, because the Oregon state legislature passed a property tax abatement law, and it was bipartisan. It was unanimous and signed by the governor in September of 2019, but there's actually a $300,000 property tax abatement for people who home share. It's a counties can choose whether or not to give it, but it's a pretty interesting and I think progressive way of thinking about home sharing. They think it's such a powerful tool to home share. The next example, and so that's where a nonprofit sits in the middle. The next example is Home Share South Bay, and South Bay is down near Los Angeles, and they had some homelessness prevention innovation funds, and they said, it's probably better to prevent homelessness for many reasons. Obvious ones, it's better to never be homeless, but it's also less expensive because you don't need as many supportive services if you can prevent people from being homeless. So they have a home sharing program designed to prevent homelessness down there, and that's funded under innovation funds. And finally, the last example is Montgomery County. And so that's that last slide there. And Montgomery County, Maryland just opened up a home sharing program, and they're a HUD certified housing counseling agency. So they have a bunch of programs already that homeowners are using, such as foreclosure prevention, rental assistance, credit counseling, things like that. And they just added a home sharing program. And again, we're just kind of the behind the scenes vendor to that and help support their program. But that's kind of all the formal slides I have. I've got, a few, if there's questions, I have a few more that I can talk about, but I'm going to stop there, Nancy, and I don't know if there's, some questions I can answer.
Well, let me go to the questions. I'm going to stop sharing that screen. Let me see if I can unshare, stop sharing. And let me go to the chat. I'm not seeing, have you all put some questions into chat? I don't see any, but please put questions into chat. I have a question, Jennifer.
Sure.
Here's one that just came in. Here they are. Are there contracts involved in doing a home share?
Yes, great question. We provide state-specific leases that you can use, so they're templates and they're state-specific. Our partners now, and that's why I kind of wanted to include the partner examples. When we partner with the nonprofits, sometimes they want to use their own leases that are very specific. So of course, it's their program. And if you go through their program, they'll want to use their lease. But we do provide state-specific lease templates and also home sharing agreements, which is more the house rules. And we help you really walk through the house rules, kind of like, hey, do we have quiet hours? What is our visitor policy? Things like that. If you're going to exchange help around the house for reduced rent, what specifically have you agreed to? Things like that.
Great. Do other home sharing, this is Nancy, do other home sharing services also provide those kinds of templates and things like that for agreements and leases?
They do. I can only really speak confidently to ours. I've talked with several around several home sharing programs around the country, and they all have their own kind of leases. I don't know exactly what's in their leases, but yes, there's always some type of agreement, a home sharing agreement that specifies the terms of payment, how many months we agreed to, and some home sharing programs are very, very heavily case managed and have a lot of kind of rules. They'll do check-ins, they'll do, walkthroughs, safety checks, things like that. Other programs don't quite have the resources to do that. So it really is dependent upon, which home sharing program you're talking about.
Thanks. Okay. We have another question. I'm 60 and love the idea of home sharing, but the most common resistance I encounter is how to screen potential roommates.
Right, and that I would say goes right up there to that security and compatibility component. If you think of from the Silvernest side of things, we're a tool. So we're going to help you filter out a lot of stuff and give you a lot of, just kind of helpful advice on how to navigate this. So hopefully, if you fill out a really good profile and you're really honest about, what you want, we'll send matches. You can choose whether or not to engage with them. We really recommend just, messaging on our platform or in some other way that's encrypted. You don't want to give anything out at first. We highly encourage running background screens, which we facilitate on our website, and a lot of home sharing programs run background screens as well. And we also really recommend, the first time you meet, maybe just have a phone call or a FaceTime and then go somewhere neutral like a coffee shop. Make sure your friends and family know what you're doing. There's safety in that. Is let people know. Let other people meet this potential housemate and see what they think. So, it's a little bit, I guess, like dating, but for living together. You really want to get to know this person as well as you can. I will say there's going to be there's just going to be a funny, a funny time when you first move in. It's always a little bit different moving in with someone if you've not had a roommate in a while. So give it a month, and you can agree to a trial period. You can say, okay, we're going to try this for a month or 2 months, and then let's have an honest check-in and see if this is working for both of us. But I would say, if you're thinking about it, it doesn't hurt to look. You don't have to do it, but it certainly doesn't hurt to look and see if there's someone out there that you just really all of a sudden connect with, and this might be a great arrangement.
Well, here's a question that kind of riffs off on that. Is there generally a probation period involved at the beginning of the home share, for example, several months?
A lot of people choose to do that. We don't tell anyone what to do. We're more of an information, a tool. So we certainly suggest it. But if somebody says, oh, I've met the person I definitely want to live with for the next, 10 years, we're signing a 10-year lease and that's it. I can't stop you. But most people do a trial period, but we can't, we're not going to enforce it and say you have to do that, but we strongly suggest it.
Right. So how does Silver Nest and other home sharing places actually make the suggested matches? Are people actually looking at this, or is it some sort of algorithm or?
So our website, right. So Silver Nest is a technology platform. We don't have any, brick and mortar offices or, folks that, are, kind of, I guess, boots on the ground is the term that is so overused, but I guess that's the best one to use. So we have a matching algorithm, and our when you fill out a profile, when you create a profile, we ask questions about, pets and firearms and what do you want to get out of this relationship? Are you looking for your new best friend, or is this more transactional, or maybe something in between? We ask about, do you have an age preference, a gender preference, all kinds of things, because we really, we want to give you someone who's matched as well as we can with the preferences that you have. A lot of the smaller, home sharing nonprofits around the country, they're a little more high touch, but a lot of times they do this just pen and paper. So that's where partnering with them is sometimes really beneficial, because we can help kind of take that pen and paper matching and scale it up with our technology. But the nonprofits can provide a lot of, really local, they know their communities, so they can provide a lot of high touch local concierge type services.
Great. So what are your actual fees, and what services does it cover, for example?
Oh, yes. So just when you come in, just direct to our website, silvernest.com. The way we charge $29.99 for a background screen for homeowners and housemates, and you pay for that yourself. You can either do that proactively, and you'll get a little green check by your name. Actually, I might have. Well, I think we took the slides down, but there's a slide with a little background screen check. But there's a little check that says I've been background screened. If someone that you're engaged with and you think they might be, you're getting that good feeling like, hey, this person seems really great, we might be a fit, but they don't have a background screen, you can request that they take a background screen. So that's one way we make money. The other is when you sign a lease, we have automatic rent payments. And so once you make your first payment, we take a 5% of rent administrative fee out to use the rental, the automatic rent payments. And that actually, then that engages a no application, no deductible home sharing insurance. So it's $10,000 insurance for the renter's items and $100,000 insurance for any damage done by the home sharing by the home sharing arrangement. So if your roommate leaves the bathtub running or something like that.
Ooh, I hope that hasn't happened.
It hasn't. It's kind of funny. No one's used it yet, so we're kind of wondering if we should keep it, quite frankly. But we have not had a single person use the insurance yet,
Right.
which is good news. It's good news for
It's
everybody. So that means nothing's been damaged. So high five.
great news on that.
Yes, yes.
How do home renters know about you? I mean, first of all, we have programs like this at the library, but how else do home renters know about you or other home sharing services?
Lots of different ways. For us, for Silvernest, people find out about us through our partnerships because our partners do a lot of local outreach because, of course, they want to get the word out about this program that they have, and we help them. They do a lot of the more local channels and use their local networks. And then we have a lot of, I guess, what you would call like air cover with SEO, like search engine optimization, a lot of digital marketing strategies, things like that, that we put into areas where we have partnerships. So, we get the word out digitally. They get the word out kind of more locally. We do a lot of events. Like this, which I really appreciate because the more people that know about it as an option, the better it is. Because you might do an apartment for a little while, some home sharing for a little while. You might go Airbnb it for a little while. Home sharing is definitely not a static thing anymore. People have lots of different options the way they want to live. So I think there's just more talk about it in general as, there isn't just this, it's either stay in my home or go to a senior community. I think there's a lot of really new, interesting choices in co-housing, co-living, home sharing. There's just a lot of new, really great options out there.
Yes, and I think also that COVID has really made that stark choice, put that as a stark choice out there. For people making a decision not to move to, let's say, a retirement community or assisted living or whatever. So that home sharing and virtual villages, all of these are ways and housing options to make it possible for people to age in their own home or in their own living space or in their own community, right? Rather than having to move.
Exactly. I actually was lucky and got to, right when COVID hit, we as a company thought, well, gosh, is anyone ever going to want to do this? And so we interviewed a lot of our users and talked to them about where they were at in the process. Some had just started, some had just recently started home sharing, some were still looking. But the overwhelming answer was home sharing was definitely even more of an option for them because they didn't want to go somewhere where there were, 200 other people. A lot of people said, I'd rather get used to one person in my home than move and go get used to, 200 people. So I think, and we've seen that there's just been an even greater demand for home sharing compared to a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that makes sense. Turning from that, here's a question. Have you encountered situations where an elderly person who does need some assistance is able to rent from someone who may help them with some of their needs, or have a setup where the older renter has a caregiver come in? Have you had arrangements with that, or?
We've heard of that being, something someone's looked for. I don't have a specific, example to share of that, but that's certainly an option. If you need, more than just errands and chores and things like that, if you need, assistance with medicine or personal care, things like that, home sharing can be a way to pay for that, professional caregiving. Certainly, we don't recommend that, the home sharing arrangement is centered around that, though. Hopefully the home sharing arrangement could give you money, if, to pay for additional services if that's what you need. Now, again, things like, light housekeeping, cooking, things like that, that's certainly something that could be, part of the home sharing arrangement.
Thanks. Um, Here's a slightly different question. What protection does the host homeowner have if a situation goes bad, like the renter stops paying rent, or there's serious problems with behavior?
Well, the lease agreement, that's why the home sharing agreement is there. That is an agreement, and, it's signed by both parties. And we have not seen that yet. We haven't had anybody come up and had a real problem with that yet, which is good. I think that's part of that compatibility piece and just really getting to know someone a little bit more. And quite frankly, living in the same house with someone makes it a lot more uncomfortable to not pay your rent than if you were, in a separate apartment and they weren't under the same roof. So, but if it escalates and you need to, call a lawyer or, take it to court, then that could be an option. But we just have not seen that. Now, of course, if it's something really bad and, the behavior is criminal, I would recommend calling 911 or the police or, something like that. But again, that's not ever been anything that we've seen.
Right. And it sounds like from what you have said that people obviously want to do their due diligence
Mm-hmm.
before they enter into an arrangement with somebody.
Exactly. And I mean, and yes, tell your friends and neighbors and your family, this is something, this is a joyous way to live. I think it can be a really joyous way. Humans, are they a little unpredictable? Yes, sometimes they are. There's always, going to be I'm sure that down the road, there'll be some story that just makes you go, oh gosh, that's terrible. But I would say for the most part, everything that we've heard from users is they come back. 40% of our users relist their homes. They want to do this again. Everyone that we've had, just nobody has had any big issues like this. So I guess it's a good problem to have. I don't have any examples of anything going really south. And I think it's a really safer way to live too. I think it's a lot less frightening, to share your space with someone and have somebody know, hey, this person didn't show up on time, or, if you fall down the stairs, somebody, is there to maybe see you in 3 hours versus 3 days. So I think there's a lot of really great benefits to finding that right person to live with and cultivating that relationship.
Right. I mean, do you have any stories, or can you think of any examples where of the kinds of help that the renter would be doing for the homeowner, and perhaps getting the reduced rent because of it? What kinds of things do people arrange?
Well, actually, one of my one of the clients down in Florida, I love this story because it's actually twofold. I'm going to answer your question, I promise. It ended up being dog sitting. But what was interesting about this arrangement is, lovely woman in Florida had a big 4-bedroom house down near Orlando. And she said, well, I want to do this, but I have a family and grandchildren, and they come back at Christmas, and I really want my house back at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I said, well, write that. And, write how you want to live. What is your ideal situation? And so she did. She put in her profile, 4-bedroom house, yada, yada, yada. But, I have my family back at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, sure enough, she found a housemate who said, well, I don't really want to be at your house at Thanksgiving and Christmas. I want to be with my family. So I'll go home to them, no problem. And they've been living together for several years. And her housemate, the arrangement was she was going to walk her dog and do dog sitting while she traveled, and things like that. And if you have pets, you know how expensive, how quickly those kennel fees can add up. So it's a significant savings. And now she's dog sitting for everyone all over the neighborhood and house sitting. And so it's just been, those two, she knows everybody in the neighborhood. Everybody knows them. It's just really worked out beautifully, and it's all because of some dog sitting arrangements. So it's pretty great.
That's great. I was just putting some links into the chat since I was sort of running the slides. I didn't have a chance to do that. And let me take a look to see some other questions that have come in. Somebody has asked, and you may or may not know the answer to this, but during the pandemic, many tenants have been given protection from being evicted. I'm assuming, perhaps incorrectly, question mark, that this protection would apply to people who have contracted to home share. I don't know how that works. Yeah.
Yes, you're going to have to, all state and local, all your laws you're going to have to follow. We've not had anyone have a problem with that. My best guess on that is because it's an affordable rental situation. Well, my best guess is this, two things. It's an affordable rental situation to begin with. So likely somebody was significantly, saving money by home sharing. Number two, in these arrangements, you really do get to know each other. And so you're heading off problems, right? Well, if one of the problems is somebody lost their job, my best guess is that they would work something out and say, I get it, you lost your job. How about you do this for me? Or let's, maybe talk about a payment plan later or something like that. Humans tend to, once you get to know each other, you tend to work together to work things out. So, but again, if
I have about 10 more minutes of this.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Here's a question. Can you expand upon the Silver Nest relationship with the city of Portland? As far as I know, Seattle does not have such a program, and I would love to push this with our city council.
Oh, well, I would love that too. We've been talking to a lot of folks in Seattle and in King County and some in Western Washington. So we've, but like anything, it's sometimes a slow moving train. Government folks have a lot on their plate with, COVID and elections and housing and all kinds of things. But, there is beginning to be, some support for it on the city council, but I would welcome, anyone who has any ideas. I'd love to hear about them or talk with you about them. Our partnership in Oregon is actually the state of Oregon, although because Portland is the most densely populated city, it has the most listings. So there's a lot of, there tends to be more listings in Portland than anywhere else, but our partnership is with the entire state of Oregon, with the nonprofit that serves the entire state. I shouldn't say with the state of Oregon. It's actually funded by grant money and individual donors. So some of our other partnerships are funded by government money, but the one in Portland is donors and grants.
Great. Here's a easy one. How long has a Silver Nest been in existence?
6 years. So just long enough to be really, really good at it. But what I also love is we're still young enough and nimble enough to where we're really responsive to our listeners. So, if anyone out there ever has some suggestions or you see something on our website that you think could be better, or, we're always just so interested in feedback and making this, something that's easy to use and fun to use and really affects people's lives positively.
Great. So how many matches has Silver Nest made? Do you have any idea?
Thousands of matches. I'm not sure how many home sharing agreements, just because those, we don't require people to self-report. So we do get, I can tell you, we get about 250 new listings nationwide every day. And about 5,000 messages are exchanged every day between potential housemates and homeowners. And we're trying to we changed, not to get in the weeds too much, but it was hard the way our system used to work to track the number of home shares and for how long. So we changed a lot of our the ways we track things last year. So we're learning more and more, but we've had thousands of matches.
Great. I think somebody here wants just some clarification that as an individual looking to either rent or to rent out a place, that you can work as an individual. You don't need to go through another organization.
Correct. You can always just go right into silvernest.com. It's free to build a profile, either to list your space or to say I'm looking for space. So you can just go right in, no partnership involved.
Great. Well, you had a lot of questions this evening. Are there, I don't see any more, but we still have a few minutes. Here's a question that just came in on, it's a question about the fees again. So the fees are the background, the $29, and then it's 5% a month?
Correct. So if you're renting out your space for $500 a month, there would be a $25 administrative fee that gets taken out, and that enables you to use the automatic rent pay and engages the insurance for both parties.
Got it. All right. What other questions? Well, you're thinking of any other questions. I've posted in the chat some other home sharing services. So you can get those links just to get an idea, including Silvernest's website. I've also posted a survey that the library would very much appreciate if you could fill out there. Let's see. There was some more clarification than looking at the questions again. There's some just more questions about insurance and what gets covered. And, I think that if people have more specific questions, you can always get in touch with Silvernest.
Yeah, and there's some
really good.
Yeah, and there's some great information. Honestly, I'm not an insurance expert by any means, but there's some really great information about it on our website and our terms of use. If you're one of those people who really wants to dig into it, that's all readily available. But I'm happy to send it out as well.
Great. There was a question about sharing your slides. Are you amenable to that, or?
Oh, of course, yes.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
let's put, I think that the best thing to do would be if somebody would like the slide presentation to email you, Jennifer. Would that work?
Yeah, happy to send those out over.
Okay, and let me get in I'm going to put Jennifer's email in the chat. It's jennifer.hammer?
Nope, just jennifer@silvernest.com.
Okay, silvernest.com.
And I would put it in the chat if I could. I actually emailed it to you, Nancy, but there is a really good, just up the, since you guys are in Seattle, University of Washington did do a really great home sharing study policy recommendation last year that they presented to the legislature this year. And I included the link in there, but you can Google it too if you just Google University of Washington home sharing study. Some really great information about programs all over the country and a lot of great statistics if you're someone who kind of wants to really dig into home sharing.
Great, that's a great idea. For those of you who have stayed with us with all of our tech issues, I know that WebEx is not the usual platform that most people use. So thank you very much for playing with it and discovering it. I think if there's our program next week on universal design is also going to be in WebEx. So make sure you register and give yourself enough time to get into the platform when you join the program. And I think that is
You did it.
those are all the questions that I see. So Jennifer, you did a great job of doing this blind on the phone. We did this on the fly. I mostly got all the slides in the right place. So
Oh, you were fantastic. Thank you. And yes, thank you to everybody who came. I'm so sorry I couldn't get this to work for me. But I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate being able to be with everyone tonight. So thank you.
all right. Thanks, everybody. And if you have a minute, just a couple of items back up on the chat. I left a link for our survey. It would be really helpful for us. Let me see if I can find it again, and I'll repost it. If you could fill out that survey, I promise it's very short. And that would be terrific. I'm going to post it right now. And I definitely promise it's short. We'd really appreciate that. So we'll leave that up there for just a minute so you can click on it. And so thank you, everyone, for the evening. And thank you, Jennifer.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nancy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.